Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 8th section, the 8th canto, chapter 21. Today is verse 4. This is the pastimes of Lord Vamanadev, the 5th incarnation of the Das avatar, and we're very fortunate to be reading the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who stands alongside the other great acharyas of Vaishnavism because he spread the teachings of Vaishnavism, of bhakti-yoga, all over the world. And this is why today I have the opportunity to speak something of my realizations here in Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Today, text number 4. We will chant together the Sanskrit verse. Dhatu kamandalo jalam tadu kramasya pada vena jana pavitra taya narendra svardhun yabun nabasi sapatati namarsti Lokatrayam Bhagavato Vishvadev Kritihi. The translation now of word for word. Dhatuhu of Lord Brahma. Kamandalu Jalam, water from the Kamandalu. That Urukramasya of Lord Vishnu. Pada avajana pavitrayaya, because of washing the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu and thus being transcendently pure. Nara Indra, O King, Svardhuni, the river named Svardhuni of the celestial world, Abut, so became. Nabasi, in outer space, Sa, the water, Patati, flowing down, Nimarsti, purifying, Lokatrayam, the three worlds, Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishada, so purified, Iva, just like, Kritihi, the fame or the glorious activities. Translation. O king, the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev, who is known as Ukra, the wonderful actor. Thus that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds, like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So responsively, O King, the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev, who is known as Urukrama, the wonderful actor. Thus that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds, like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The purport, written by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Here, we understand that the Ganges began when the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev. But in the 5th canto, it is stated that the Ganges began when Vamanadev's left foot pierced the covering of the universe, so the transcendental water of the causal ocean leaked through. And elsewhere, it is also stated that Lord Narayan appeared as the water of the Ganges. The water of the Ganges, therefore, is a combination of 3 transcendental waters, and thus the Ganges is able to purify the 3 worlds. That is the description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskacha Desatarne Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Brinda Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chambat Votamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraya. So, if I can just recap, bring us up to date of what is going on here. This is the beginning of chapter 21. In chapter 18 of this section, it describes the birth of Lord Vamanadev. In chapter 19, Lord Vamanadev goes to Bali Maharaj and begs from him 3 steps of land. In chapter 20, he takes 2 of these steps of land. And now here in chapter 21, it describes in these first, we read verse number 4. In the first verses it says, verse 1, Sukadeva Goswami continued, when Lord Brahma, who was born of a lotus flower, saw that effulgence of his residence, Brahmaloka, had been reduced by the glaring effulgence from the toenail of Lord Vamanadev, he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the great sages, headed by Marichi and yogis like Sanandana. But in the presence of that glaring effulgence, O king, even Lord Brahma and his associates seemed insignificant. Among the great personalities who came to worship the lotus feet of the Lord were those who had attained perfection in self-control and regulative principles, as well as experts in logic, history, general education, and the Vedic literature known as Kalpa, which deals with old and historical incidents. Others were expert in the Vedic corollaries, like Brahma Samhita, all the other knowledge of the Vedas, the Sama, Yajur, Rik, and Atharva, and also the supplementary Vedic knowledge, like the Atharva Veda and the Dhanur Veda, etc. Others were those who had freed of the reaction to fruitive activities by transcendental knowledge awakened by the practice of yoga. And still others were those who had attained residence in Brahmaloka, not by ordinary karma, but by advanced Vedic knowledge. After devotedly worshipping the upraised lotus feet of the Supreme Personality with oblations of water, Lord Brahma, who was born of the lotus, emanating from Lord Vishnu's navel, offered prayers to the Lord. Today's verse was, O king, the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev, who is known as Urukrama, the wonderful actor. Thus that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds, like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse starts by saying, O king. This king is Maharaj Parikshit, whom the whole recitation of the Bhagavatam is given to him by Sukadev Goswami. It's here mentioned that there water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu. Kamandalu is a name given to a pot which a divine person or a sage carries. Generally, these kamandalus were made from coconut shell. They were big coconut shells of the kind that nowadays we can only find in Indonesia. Many times you see sadhus, they're walking around with a long oval-shaped pot with a handle. This is one of the coconuts which nowadays come from Indonesia. Kamandalus can also be made from wood, from gourd, from clay, from metal. Nowadays many sadhus, they have a brass kamandalu. The act of carrying water within the kamandalu, as the sage, as the divine person goes here and there, this symbolizes simplicity and a self-contained life. The water within the kamandalu gives potency, it gives blessings, it enhances life. Within Vedic literature, many devas carry a kamandalu. Lord Brahma is depicted by having a kamandalu in his left hand. Shiva, Varuna, Ganga Devi, Saraswati Devi, Agni, Brihaspati, they all carry kamandalus. And here in India they have recovered a silver coin from 2,200 years ago, in which Lord Krishna, he is depicted carrying a kamandalu. Urukram here is mentioned. Uru means very difficult. Krama means steps. In an initiation letter to a wonderful devotee whom Srila Prabhupada named Urukrama from Los Angeles in 1971, Srila Prabhupada said that Urukrama means one who acts very wonderfully. Another personality involved here is Bali Maharaj, who mostly in the Vedic literature is named Mahabali. Bali was in the act of performing an Asvamedha sacrifice. As we know from another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yudhisthira Maharaj, he performed an Asvamedha sacrifice. The idea is that a very prominent king who has conquered all of the other territories. In the case of Maharaj Yudhisthira, to bring a uniformity in the practice of Dharma, so that people in this human form, they can get the ultimate benefit from following the process of Dharma and worshipping the Supreme Lord. The idea is that a horse is let loose to wander for 1 year. If anyone wants to challenge the supremacy, the rulership of the king, then those people are at liberty to challenge the horse, to capture the horse, in which case the king's soldiers will go and wage war with those people to see who, to substantiate that the person doing this Asvamedha sacrifice is in fact the ultimate ruler. But here, in the case of Bali Maharaj, he was the commander-in-chief of the Asuras, and he was releasing the horse from the Asvamedha sacrifice because Bali had conquered the 3 worlds, the lower worlds, the heavenly planets. So Bali and the Asuras, they ruled everything. They ruled completely. Rupa Goswami, the most senior of the 6 Goswamis, along with his brother Sanatan Goswami, in Ujjvala Nilamani, he says, Navina Vipralamba Sambhog Pusti Masnute. The translation of this is, without the mood of separation, the mood of meeting will not be nourished and come to increasingly higher stages. The pastimes of separation are very important because they play the role of nourishing the sweetness of meeting. So, within the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, there are endless varieties and wonder in Sambhoga, which is meeting, and Vipralamba, which is separation. Now, Rupa Goswami, he described very wonderfully for the Vaishnava community and for the whole Vaishnava line which follows in this mood and has these devotional aspirations. He was a very, very great acharya. And he described that there are 9 different processes of devotional service within Vaidhi Bhakti which bring us to the point where we are absorbed in this vipralamba, if there's separation from the Lord. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada translates as the nectar of devotion, in this there are 9 processes described, and Atmanivedanam is the process by which we surrender everything to Krishna. So it is stated in Nectar of Devotion that Bali's success, Bali Maharaj, this demon, this asura who conquered the 3 worlds, who was sending out his horse to affirm his conquest, his imperial status. It is stated there that he depicts the process of surrender, completely surrender to Krishna. Because he surrendered all of his possessions to Krishna. In the 11th canto, Krishna tells Uddhava that Bali had great love for him. Another character who is part of this lila of Lord Vamanadev is Shukra Acharya. Lord Brahma, by his potency, had Manasa Putra. He, from his mind, he created beings. And Bhrigu, he was one such being. Bhrigu is the father of Shukracharya. When the ocean of immortality was churned, and the Devas were given and partook of the nectar of immortality, the Asuras realized that they were at a severe disadvantage in fighting with the Devas. So they approached Shukracharya and they asked him, they requested him to be their guru. Understanding the position, understanding their weakness, understanding the mortality of the Asuras, Shukracharya went and he had performed austerities and he worshipped Lord Shiva with the purpose of getting the Mitra Sanjivani mantra. This was a very, very powerful mantra that if a person was slain or if he died from some wound, some illness, then by this mantra the person could be revived. And this was Shukracharya's device, his strategy to counter the immortality of the Devas. So when Bali Maharaj went to Shukracharya and he asked for 3 steps, give me what I can obtain with taking 3 steps. Bali Maharaj agreed. He was about to do the sacrifice. He was the #1 person in all the 3 planetary systems. Everything was under his domain. Everything was controlled by him. The demigods were afraid of him. He was affirming this by doing the Ashvamedha sacrifice and letting the horse loose. He had everything. We think of the world's richest people today, the big billionaires, the richest man in the world, the top 10 richest, how much money they have. Well, that is as little as compared to this person who had everything in all the planetary systems. So he was very charitably disposed. What this 3 steps of life, it was nothing. How this little guy, how much can he have? But Shukracharya, who had taken great pains to get this Mitra Sanjivani mantra, who had very carefully counseled Bali Maharaj, who was the guru, who was the intellect, who was the thinker, the planner behind the whole victory that the Asuras had won after many battles and much fight and much difficulty. Immediately he was very suspicious. And he said, this is Vishnu, you don't do it, this is a trick, you don't do this. But Bali was inclined to do it anyway. And just like today, often people will shake hands on a deal. Yes, okay, they will agree, they shake hands. This is a very ancient custom when warriors had swords. So by showing your hand, I have nothing in my hand is empty. I will give you my empty hand, there is no weapon, I mean you no harm. This is the handshake. Well then, to affirm the deal, some water from the Kamandalu, it was sprinkled. This was sealing the deal. In the Padma Puran, it is described that when Bali Maharaj was about to sprinkle the water to confirm the deal, it says Shukra Acharya, by his mystical potency, he turned himself into a bee, a little flying bee, a honeybee. And in this bee form, he went and he flew inside the spout of the Kamandalu, so that when water was about to be dropped to confirm the deal, the spout was blocked. And no water came. And it's said there that Vamanadev, with a piece of straw, he poked up inside the spout of the Kamandalu. And Shukracharya, in the form of the bee, was blinded in one eye. And this is why, later, when Lord Shiva, he gave the boon to Shukracharya to become one of the Navagraha, one of the 9 planets. And so the deity of Shukra is often depicted with only having one eye because of the bee within the Kamandalu. There are various, this is mentioned in the Surya Siddhanta also, and there are various attributes of Shukra which we translate in English into being Venus. So Shukra Acharya, true to his position as being the guru of the Asuras, the influence of Venus gives mundane love, creativity, procreation, charm, luxury. Venus is the patron of the arts, of medicine, of invention, and of astrology. Shukracharya, Venus, Shukra, gives very comfortable living. But of course, he only has one eye, so that's only half of the story. In the purport, there's a mention of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Prabhupada says, the waters of the Ganges, therefore, is a combination of 3 transcendental waters, and thus the Ganges is able to purify. This is the description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nath means Lord. Vishva means to pervade. It means whole. it means entire, it means universal. So Vishwanath means the Lord of the universe. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, in the time of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they proclaimed him to be the Lord of Bhakti, that he completely understood the philosophy and the science of bhakti-yoga. So they were very happy that he retained and he had this name Vishwanath. Chakravarti, the word means predominant. It means largest, most noticeable, most powerful, most important. This was a title that was conferred upon Vishwanath. Vishwanath Chakravarti, the most prominent of all of the bhaktas, the most prominent of all of the people who understood and practiced the science of devotional service. And he was always also given the name Thakur, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which means a most noble man. So it was a very, very high title he was given. He was born in a Brahmin family. Some say 1640, some say 1656. So 360 or 380 years ago, in Nabadwip district of West Bengal. He studied well, and eventually he went to Vrindavan. He has written over 30 major works of bhakti, and these are considered a great treasure for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for those who relish the particular understanding of bhakti that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas promote. 3 of his books stand out in particular, and he's particularly revered for having written 3 books. These are all resumes of Rupa Goswami's works. Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani was commented upon as a resume of it by Vishwanath Chakravarti, called the Ujjvala Nilamani Kirana. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Srila Prabhupada has translated, calling it the Nectar of Devotion, was also commented upon, was written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and this is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. And the 3rd book by Rupa Goswami, Lalagu Bhagavad-Amrita, is the Bhagavad-Amrita Kanu. So it is thought by scholars of Gaudiya Vaishnavism that there are very few acharyas in the Gaudiya school who have been as productive of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. As well as his books, he was also a great preacher and a great kirtan person, and he has composed many songs and many bhajans. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is a very eminent Gaudiya Acharya, and Srila Prabhupada defers to him on account of the respect for his knowledge, experience in bhakti. So, we have here a mention that there are 3 different Puranic references for 3 different sources of the Ganga. Now, it is very common, and I personally hear it all the time. There was a discussion recently about when we should start Ekadasi. And several devotees were saying, well, my Guru Maharaj said, so this is definitive. My Guru Maharaj said, it's from sunrise to sunrise. And another person commented, they rebutted, they said, well, my Guru Maharaj said that if you have any grains in your stomach which are undigested, then you're not following Ekadasi. So you have to fast from the night before. And someone else was making another comment. So I was thinking this is very, very common, very, very usual, that people are promoting my ideas, my understanding, my family, my guru, my sampradaya, we are correct and you are wrong. So particularly amongst younger devotees, there's always a lot of this competition, who is right, who is wrong. So we have this great acharya, prominent acharya, and he gives a very simple solution. He said, all of these understandings are correct. And the Ganga is a combination of all three of these waters from all three of these sources. So it is very, very purifying. Because bhakti, the process of bhakti, it's not about having superior knowledge. It's not about someone being right, so someone being wrong. It's not a competition. It's not about getting little gems of obscure understanding to promote that you have a higher understanding, therefore you're more advanced, and so on and so on. It's not about this. Bhakti is about cultivating loving relationships. One's head often is the means to understanding one's heart. Often logic and knowledge is needed to convince ourselves, to convince others, to begin to enter, to cultivate this loving relationship with Krishna. But the goal is prem. Bali had the whole universe subdued. He was doing the Ashwamedha sacrifice in case there was any pockets of resistance. He had everything. He controlled everything. He owned everything. He was a most powerful person. More powerful, more opulent than any of the devas. Sukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 85, verse 38. Sukadeva Goswami says, after surrendering everything, Bali took hold of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet and pressed them to his heart. Overwhelmed with joy, he manifests all symptoms of ecstatic love, with tears in his eyes and a faltering voice. So Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he uses this chief of the demons, the person who was making the strategies, controlling the battles, to fight and destroy and conquer the devas who were involved in worshipping the Lord. Big demon, like we don't have today. Srila Prabhupada was asked, are there big demons today? Prabhupada said, no, there are no big demons today. Mostly they're just greedy people who try to accumulate as much as they can. But they're not undergoing tapasya, they're not undergoing austerities. Ravana, he underwent great austerity to get the power that he had. Willing to really invest in their powers, which they're using for immoral ends. But very powerful people, like we don't have today. So Rupa Goswami uses this Asura commander, this very, very powerful demon, as an example of the 9th process in Vaidya Yoga, Vidya Bhakti. One time here in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada, he was talking about the necessity of having a guru. And one devotee he scratched his head and he asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, but what about the Brijbasis? Usually they don't have gurus. Does everyone? Prabhupada said, the Brijbasis, they don't need a guru. Krishna himself, he is personally their guru. In this wonderful book that everyone must read, Our Family Business, by a wonderful, amazing devotee called Vaishesika Das. In this book, it says, in his lectures at the Los Angeles Temple, the person who had been put in charge of BBT, he repeatedly referred to the service of book distribution as being a tasteful arrangement for souls to be joined in the loving service of Krishna, a service that follows in the mood of the gopis of Vrindavan. These recordings of his classes were going to all the different temples all over the movement to enliven the book distributors. But some devotees, they doubted the conclusions that he was reaching. They thought, how is book distribution assisting the gopis in their pastimes with Krishna? This is... So one brave lady called Nandulal, she lived here in Vrindavan for many, many years. She was part of Guru Kripa's Namahata collecting program in Japan. She was a very determined, very strong, some say very stubborn person. She wrote to Srila Prabhupada on May 23rd, 1974. She wrote, I have heard Prabhu in Los Angeles say that when we're performing Sankirtan, we are engaged in the Leela of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is the union of Radha and Krishna. And the speaker giving class explained that just as Radharani is more anxious to arrange for the other gopis to meet with Krishna than she herself is to meet with Krishna, and that the other gopis are always trying to think of ways in which to arrange meetings between Radha and Krishna, so when the devotees are going out and trying to engage the suffering conditioned souls, actually what we are doing is trying to arrange for some of the lost souls to meet with Krishna once again. And this is the Leela of Lord Chaitanya. She says, is this a proper understanding of Sankirtan? Srila Prabhupada replied on June 9th, 1974, the explanation given that Sankirtan is Lord Chaitanya's Leela, which he compares to the gopis trying to engage others in Krishna's service, is the correct understanding. So, what caught my attention in this verse, in the purport, was that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, rather than cause any further schism, rather than support his followers as having a superior understanding, rather than promote his particular cult, his particular sect of Vaishnava as being superior to the others, he took the view that all of the understandings are equally correct. And the Ganges, in fact, a combination of all these different sources of water. So if you think from your group that the Ganges has a particular sect, and on account of this, it's particularly purifying, then you adhere to that view. So Vaishnavism is very, very broad. And none of the groups of Vaishnavism entirely agree with any of the others. From Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, there's about 9 or 10 different groups, different camps. And each of these camps observe Ekadasi in a completely different way. In South India, in the Madhva Sampradaya, they observe Ekadasi by fasting from rice till midday. Every single meal, everything they eat is rice. They don't eat rice, and this is a sacrifice. They have rice at midday. In Bengal, when a woman's husband dies, she starts to observe Ekadasi after his death. So there are different interpretations of all of the different facets, different worship. That you go to different temples, they worship in a different way. You go to different sampradayas, they worship in a completely different way. In Nathadwar, here we make up deity plates. We have nice plates, 10 plates for all of the deities on the altar. In Nathadwar, Srinathji, he doesn't have a plate. They take the entire pot of rice, of dal, they put the entire pot before him. They say, how can you limit Vishwanath, the all-pervading, how can you limit him to one plate? He can eat as much as you cook. So they cook everything. So throughout Vaishnavism, the different sampradayas, the different gurus within ISKCON, each different group has a different understanding. No one has a complete understanding. In Bhagavad-Gita, seventh chapter, it said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Prithu, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse, it is not possible to know Krishna in full. Krishna says here, practice yoga in full consciousness of me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Vishwanath Chakravarti, it's not possible to know Krishna in full. He said, it is possible to know Krishna as full as you are able to. You can know Krishna to your full capacity. That is a very, very great advanced stage in devotion, but it is possible that you can know Krishna to your full capacity, but you cannot know Krishna in full. It said Anantasesh is continually with his 1,000 heads. He cannot glorify Krishna because as Vishnu is doing more and more activities, he's more and more, it's continually expanding. So it is not possible for any of us to know Krishna. It is not possible for any of us to know everything about Krishna. And that is not the goal of bhakti-yoga. The goal of bhakti-yoga is to love Krishna to our full capacity. And this is possible. And we should always respect the efforts of others. We all have to start somewhere. So each person has to be encouraged. Each person has to be inspired. And in my view, there is nothing that, maybe not nothing, but in my view, it discourages someone. They're speaking the realization, oh Krishna, and you say, no, it's not like this, and correct them because you're more superior, you know more, you're more of a pandit. This is not the goal of Krishna consciousness. It's not the goal of ISKCON. And when Srila Prabhupada, great Acharya, who has done what no one else has done in the history of Vaishnavism on this planet, such as his prowess. Srila Prabhupada just gave a very simple understanding of Krishna consciousness. He didn't encourage anyone to try to be a pandit, but he encouraged them to chant without offenses and to develop love of God by offenselessly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I think we may have time for one or two quick questions. Matajis, any questions? Is that a no? Or are you just speaking quietly? Is there anyone else has a question? Yes, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
This last statement you were making just now, you were making the last statement.
I can't hear. I can't. Yes, Prabhuji?
Yes, you were making the last statement about 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita.
Yes, sir.
About Krishna, that we study so many Vedas and so many things, we cannot come to know Krishna. So only by bhakti, by devotional service, we can come to know Krishna.
Yes.
So whatever the courses we have, Bhakti Satsang course, Bhakti-yoga course, and we are educating, we are listening to classes. And this is whether it is important or just to have a devotional service and love for Krishna.
Good question. As I mentioned, often the way to the heart, particularly for men, is through the head. Often we have to have a logical understanding, a rational understanding, before we can allow ourselves to love. So this is one reason why we have to study, so we have to allow ourselves to enter into a loving relationship with Krishna. Vishwanath Chakravarti, when he was old, he was contacted by the king of Jaipur. The king was confused because acharyas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they were telling him that he should take initiation into their Sampradaya because the Gaudiya Sampradaya was not authentic. They had a number of points, and one point they raised was that they have no history. They have no authentic history of where they get their ideas from. It's made up. It's bogus. Come over with us and save your soul. The king was confused. He sent a messenger, he contacted Vishwanath Chakravarti, who was old, who was living in Vrindavan, and he sent his disciple Baladev to speak to them. So there were several points which he answered, but the main point was that they had no commentary of Vedanta Sutra. Each sampradaya needs its own, has to justify its philosophical understanding from the sutras by an interpretation of the sutras of Vedanta Sutra. And we had none. So, realizing this was the crux of the issue, he asked some time to write the commentary. Some say he was given 7 days to write the commentary. Another version is that he was given 3 months. So he undertook to do this. He went to the Govindaji temple. He was praying to his guru. He was praying to Krishna. How can he fulfill this condition? There is 500 sutras in Vedanta Sutra. Tato Brahma Jignasa, the first sutra, has had volumes and volumes of commentary written on it. Now, therefore, Brahman inquiry. What is now? What is therefore? What is inquiry? What is Brahman? There are libraries have been written on this one sutra. Srila Prabhupada says now we have this human form of life. But not everyone agrees with this. There's different commentaries. So the first sutra, one time Pradyumna, who was Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor, we were friends. We often shared a room together. When the temple was being built, we lived in brick huts, which were cemented together with mud, so the bricks could easily be reclaimed. There was a thatched roof, and he came back from Udupi, where he had been studying. He went to study Vedanta Sutra, and I was all excited. Vedanta Sutra, my friend. So I asked him, what are the different padas in the different sections of Vedanta Sutra? He said, I don't know. And I asked another question. I asked the third question, and I thought, he doesn't want to tell me. He has this very advanced knowledge, and he understands that I'm not capable of understanding okay. And I didn't ask anymore. I was thinking, he was watching me, and he said, for 3 months, every day, we studied Vedanta Sutra, the first shloka, nothing more, first sutra. For 3 months they studied, that's as far as they went. So it's lifetimes of study to comprehend what other people have written in their commentaries, what to speak of writing a whole brand new commentary. So he was there realizing the enormity of the task and praying to his guru, Vishwanath Chakravarti, the great scholar, the great bhakta, and praying to Krishna. How can I do this? And a garland broke. The thread broke, the garland fell at the deity's feet. And the pujari saw this. It never happens. He took it and he pressed it against Vishwanath Chakravarti's chest. And Vishwanath Chakravarti took this to be authority from Krishna that he should go ahead and write this. There's an English translation, a Gaudiya translation, in which the verses and the commentary run to 720 pages. It's a thick book. It's thicker than Bhagavad-Gita. Thick book. And he completed this in the 7 days or the 3 months, whichever version is correct. And when he was coming to this, many Sampradaya leaders came to the meeting with the king because they were intrigued. This was a big thing. And they were astounded by the way he had commented, yet preserved the particular Gaudiya Vaishnava understanding with such scholarship, with such clarity, with such subtlety. People were just astonished. And nobody has since challenged the authenticity of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So Srila Prabhupada, in Bhagavad-Gita, he had his first Bhagavad-Gita, a thin Bhagavad-Gita, a third of the size. Kohler Macmillan, the educational publishers, they published Bhagavad-Gita. They needed a Gita for their array of books. But Prabhupada's manuscript is too big. They cut it by a third, cut out so many purports, so many. We used it at first. We don't use it now. We'll never use it because so much of it is missing. So even in that first, Prabhupada insisted. He insisted that in the dedication, as is in all our books now, all of the Bhagavad Gitas, Prabhupada said to Baladev Vidyabhushana, who presented so nicely the Govinda Bhashya commentary of Vedanta Sutra. It was named Govinda Bhashya because it was thought that Govinda Ji himself, he had authorized by giving the garland. So the commentary is known as Govinda Bhashya commentary. So Prabhupada says to Baladev Vidyabhushana, his name was Baladev after he wrote the commentary. Everyone proclaimed him to be Vidyabhushana, great scholar, great poet. So this was his honorific title. To Baladev Vidyabhushana, who presented so nicely the Govinda Bhashya commentary of Vedanta Sutra, which inspired Srila Prabhupada to preach and to write Bhagavad Gita. So this is a very, very important work. But no one in the Sampradaya studies this book. It is not thought necessary. The purpose of the book, the purpose of the commentary was to authenticate us with other Sampradaya who were actively trying to take away our sponsor, take away our patron, take away the whole worship of all the different that the Gaudiyas were running in and around Vrindavan. All of the temples in Vrindavan. They wanted to take over. In the Sri Ranga Mandir, there is a Ramanuja Sampradaya Mandir. There is a couple. But 98% in Braj is Gaudiya Vaishnava. Oh, I take that back. There's other Sampradayas also. But it's 98% are not Ramanuja Sampradaya. And more or less, they would have been completely Ramanuja Sampradaya because the kings would have authorized, this is how they were funding everything. But this commentary is not used. It's not standard. There's no attempt to learn it. There's no, it has no use except to protect ourselves. So this I am trying to use to authenticate my point that the goal is not knowledge. There is so much knowledge, so much we can learn, which may be for a particular purpose. Srila Prabhupada said people could learn science if they're going to defeat the scientists. You can study Buddhism if you're going to, but there's no point in studying Buddhism. It doesn't help you with prema bhakti, and the whole purpose of the ISKCON movement is to develop love for God through the process of purely chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.